Well, hey, welcome back to this live stream. We're going to talk about basic games, part two. And last week, we just talked about some larger principles of games and why they're so important, and individual games and different things like that. And so this week on this live stream, I'm going to talk about kind of a practical thing on what you can do your very first night of club or second night of club, or just how you can really put this into action. So before we get started, I just want to remind you all there is some basic training, games basic training, awanabasics.awana.org. And so I would encourage you to go there. You'll need to get a My Awana account, so my.awana.org. So that's how you get in there. Or if you go into this awanabasics.awana.org, at the bottom of that page, there is a couple of videos on how to access this training. So I encourage you on that. So here we go on first night of club. So first thing you need to do, you need to decide how you're going to divide up the kids. And what I mean by that is, depending on the size of your club, if you've got a club of 10, then there's a good possibility you're not going to have a Sparky game time, a TNT game time, and a Cubby game time. You're going to have one game time for all. Now, if you've got a club of 100, then you're probably going to have enough kids to have a game time for Sparks, a game time for TNT, and a game time for Cubby. So decide how you're going to divide up the kids. That just kind of depends on how many kids you have, what age levels. And I've had a lot of clubs that they combine age groups, and so that's totally fine. So the next thing you want to do, once you get started in a game time, you're going to divide up into teams. So the best way to do this is you have the kids line up either against the wall or on a color line, but have the kids line up tallest to shortest, and then you're going to count them out. So the way I would do this is you have tallest to shortest, and I would start with the first person. I'd tell the kids to remember their team color. You count red, blue, green, yellow, and then yellow, green, blue, red, blue, green, yellow, blue, green, red. And so the reason you want to do that is every fourth person or fifth person, you're going to have kids that are roughly the same age and same height. So when you have the first group of kids, they're all going to be same height, same ability, same skill level, maybe. But that's the closest way you can do it. So you want to have everybody line up tallest to shortest, red, blue, green, yellow, green, blue, red, blue, green, yellow. Give them all a team color. So then the next thing you want to do is you want to have them go over to their line. And you want to have them stand on their line in the far right corner of their team zone. So where the diagonal color line is and where the team color line is, or if you're using some other way to designate teams, have them line up with their team. Again, tallest to shortest. So if everybody is tallest to shortest, then you're going to have the tallest kids playing the first game together, the next tallest kids playing the next game together, the next tallest kids. So you're going to have roughly the same ability. So you're going to divide up into teams, have everybody go to their team color line, and then ideally you want to have a line leader or a team coach with each team. So that way there's a team coach, assigned to each team to help them, do their clubs. And so you want to have the team coach. If they're lined up, say on the red line, you're going to want to have the coach on the line perpendicular to them, so they're facing the kids. So when they are watching the kids, when they're managing their team, they're looking right at the kids, and the game director will say, hey, we want the first three players. So he can point out the first three players. They can see who's touching, who's not doing the right thing, who's misbehaving. They're looking right at them. So you have the team lined up on the color line, and then you have the coach perpendicular facing the kids. If you have any questions about that, let me know. So that's how you divide up the teams. So the next thing I like to do is I want to explain the 5 count. So now here's how I explain the 5 count. I have the first game I play is I call it the scramble. And so we tell the kids, hey, when I say go, I want you to run around, scream as loud as you can, run all around the circle. And then as soon as I start to count to 5, I want you to run back to your team color line, stand right where you're standing with your hands on your side, totally silent. And the first team to have all their players on their team color, I'm going to give them whatever, 50 points, 100 points. So then you say go, the kids run around. Then you start, let them run around for 10 or 15 seconds, and everybody's yelling, having a good time. And then you're going to start to count to 5, and then they'll run back. Everybody's in their team color. Hey, the blue team got there first, so I'm going to give them 100 points. So typically in that kind of situation, they don't quite get exactly what you're asking for. So you might have to play that game again. So I say, hey, that was good time. Let's play it again. We'll see if another team can win. So you say, okay, go. And they go, and then they run around. And as soon as you count to 5, they start running back to their team color line. And typically the second time they do that, they are a lot faster, they're quicker. And if you have to play that a third game or a third time, great. So you want to make the 5 count a game. That's how you explain the 5 count. So then every game, when you play a game, you'll play one game with 3 or 4 heats. We talked about this last week, with 3 or 4 heats, depending on how many players you have on a team. So you'll have 3 or 4 heats. And so the excitement level goes up and the discipline goes down. So then when you're ready to start a new game, then I will go back to counting the 5 count and get everybody lined up again. And they all of a sudden realize they need to stand on their line with their hands on their side, totally silent. So you'll do that between every game, not between every heat, but between every game. So you'll see the excitement level go up, the discipline level go down. Kids are get a little more unruly. You go back to the 5 count. So the entire game time, you're using that 5 count. So you explain the 5 count that way. And then I would say, especially the first several weeks, but maybe even the whole year, you want to play that game. You want to play that, do the 5 count game, so they understand, hey, this is what we're doing. When we count to 5, we run back to our line. So you're making discipline a game. So the next thing you want to do, you want to explain incentives for the winning. So explain incentives for winning. So you'll have, you might have, every club does it a little different. Some will add points that they get for the rest of the night, points for wearing the uniform, points for bringing their Bible, points for bringing their friend. So they'll add the points for game time onto the whole club night. Other clubs will just say, hey, we're going to have a game time points, and the winning team gets a Tootsie Roll, or the winning team gets an Awana Buck, or the winning team gets whatever. So you'll explain the incentives for winning. And I talked about last week, given incentives for good behavior. So you'll say, hey, every game we're going to give 50 points to the winning team. But if you're doing if the people that are not playing the game are doing what I ask them to do, i.e., cheering their team, being totally quiet, every game might be a little bit different. You're going to explain points the whole team gets points for a variety of things during game time. So again, if you have questions about that, let me know. And every club kind of does points and winnings and all that kind of a little bit different. So the next thing you want to do, if you're using a circle, okay, you're going to want to explain the circle game. So, the game circle, a lot of the games are basically the same. We run around the circle, we run around and knock over a pin or grab a pin or whatever we do. The circle games are all the same, but we can add things to that. You have a beanbag on your head, you play with a baton, you could skip, you could run backwards, you could, there's just endless run over and down chairs. There's endless things you can do with circle games. But to help them understand, especially the kids who've never played circle games, you need to explain how the circle works. So another way I like to do this is the very first game, I'll say, hey, I want the tallest person to come out and stand at their pin. the circle pin, not the scoring pin, but the circle pin. That's the pin that's on the circle on the corner of the diagonal and the circle. So you'll have them stand there and you say, hey, what we're going to do is I want you to run around the circle, run all the way around the circle. And after you cross your pin, run in and either grab the orange pin or knock over your team color pin or however you want to do that. There's a variety of ways to do that. And the first player to grab the orange pin gets first place. The second place grabs the straight beanbag, and the third place puts their foot in the middle of the square. So you'll just explain that circle game with just one player. Because for you to explain, especially Sparky kids, for you to explain circle games and you're going to hand the baton and you're going to do the beanbag and you're going to do this, they don't understand what you're trying to explain to them. But if you just have one thing, run around the circle. When I say go, you're standing right here at your pin. You run around the circle. And then after you cross your pin, you run in and grab the orange pin. So you play that game. So you play the first player, and then you play the second player, and then you play the third player. So everybody kind of, especially at the beginning, this we're talking about what to do on the first club night or the beginning of the club year. You're helping them understand how the circle games go. So everybody gets to play. You might have 5 or 6 heats of one player running around the circle. So then the next circle game you might play is you might say, okay, so we're going to pull out the batons. So I'm going to have 2 players, one at the circle, one over here at this other spot. So you run around the circle, you grab the baton, or you hand the baton to the other player. They run around the circle, so that your team has had to run around twice. That second person runs around their pin, comes in, grabs the orange pin, and they win. So they've seen it happen once. Now they've seen it happen. They're going to see it happen in a relay. So you do 2 players. Now, maybe depending on how they get it, you might do 3 players. 3 players with a baton. So then depending on how much time you have on that first game time, you'll do the individual player, you'll do the baton relay, and you might do a beanbag relay. So they've seen the circle games. So that's how you explain the circle games. And now once they get how to work the circle, week after week, you can add endless games, or the same games, or you jump over this, put a chair on the circle. You can jump over the chair. You can jump under the chair. You can go backwards. It's endless. Once they understand how the circle works, then you can go on. So then after you explain the circle games, you play that a couple times, then start your game. So you played these games. Now the next week, like I talked about last week, I might start with the second week of club. I might start with the scramble, get everybody dialed into using the 5 count and coming back on your line. Oh, and by the way, you play one heat, 5 or 6 heats of the first game, and then you count to 5. Get everybody back on their line. So we're all kind of discipline levels back normal. And then you explain, hey, we're going to do batons. And you explain that. And then we do 2 heats of that. And then you go back to your 5 count and get everybody back lined on their team color line. So you can do that when you're training the kids how to play the circle game. So once they understand the circle games, then you're off and ready to go. And then there's other games you can play that are not just circle games, but any games you can play. And so you're off to go. So I hope that was helpful. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email or, respond on this social media post. And again, go back to, if you want to have some basic training on Awana games, go to awanabasics.awana.org. So hope that was helpful. Thanks a bunch. I've been out a little bit last week visiting a club, and hope you're doing well. And thanks again for all you're doing to reach kids with the message of the cross. So we'll see y'all soon. Bye.